Coal-fired power generation is by far the largest source of electricity generation worldwide. Unfortunately, it is also the largest greenhouse gas emitter, both overall and on a terawatt-hour basis. Driven by global efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, the market share of coal has been declining, but only modestly from about 40% 10 years ago to 35% of the mix in 2022. However, it still remains the largest source of electric generation and is larger than all renewables combined at 29% of the mix. That includes hydro, wind, solar, biogas, and other smaller types, natural gas at 23%, and nuclear at 10%. Looking at coal power generation capacity, that is the maximum amount of power that can be generated, it grew 60% from 1,300 gigawatts in 2005 to 2,100 gigawatts in 2018. The pace of growth has slowed considerably since then, increasing just 150 gigawatts total over the past 4 years to 2,250. This slowdown is certainly attributable to growth in renewable power generation and natural gas to a lesser extent, as most regions commit to the global climate change fight. Currently, about 1/3 of operating global coal capacity has a defined phase-out date, while the other 2/3 are subject to carbon neutrality targets. Unfortunately, as Western industrialized countries do reduce their use of coal in power generation, some regions, specifically China and India, continue to increase capacity such that they are partially offsetting global efforts to reduce the use of coal and associated carbon emissions. In the last 20 years, China prioritized the development of coal-fired generation capacity, reaching over 1,100 gigawatts in 2022 to power the country's economic growth and limit its dependence on energy imports. That being said, since 2010, China has also diversified its power mix by installing almost 1,000 gigawatts of new hydro, nuclear, solar, and wind generating capacity. This makes China the world's largest developer of renewable energy capacity worldwide. Although India doesn't have a lot of coal generation capacity in comparison to China, it does represent almost 10% of the world total and has actually increased threefold since 2010, from about 70 gigawatts to over 200 gigawatts in 2022. Looking ahead, Inquiries forecast a slight increase in global coal generation capacity through 2030 of about 10% in total, from 2,250 gigawatts in 2022 to almost 2,500 gigawatts in 2030. Much of that growth is expected to occur by 2025, as many projects in China are currently under construction. China is expected to increase coal generating capacity by about 175 gigawatts, over 15% by 2025, to almost 1,300 gigawatts. They continue to add to their growing coal power capacity through 2029, but at a much slower pace, only increasing by a further 60 gigawatts over that time frame. By 2030, China will account for over half of the world's coal power generation capacity. India also continues to increase coal-fired capacity through 2030, growing over 30% from just over 200 gigawatts to almost 300 gigawatts. Combined, China and India will account for almost 70% of the total coal generation capacity globally, up from just 60% in 2022. Conversely, the US is on track to close half of its coal-fired generation capacity by 2026, just 15 short years after its 2011 peak. The US will only have about 100 gigawatts of capacity remaining in 2030, about 5% market share, with the remainder set to close shortly after the forecast period. Despite the growing concern about climate change and the need to reduce global GHG emissions to reach net zero by 2050, just 25 years away, the global efforts are being severely hindered by regions like China and India, who will continue to grow their use of coal-fired power generation for many years to come.